Welcome to the What's Your Weird Story podcast.
Everyone has at least one good story.
And some of us have stories that are just to the left of normal.
We're interested in the ones that push the boundaries of what we can perceive.
Stories that defy explanations.
Stories with an air of mystery.
Stories we might not share
for fear of being thought of differently.
But don't worry, we're all friends here. So, what's your weird story?
Hello, Weirdsville. Welcome to the What's Your Weird Story podcast. I'm your co-host, Barry Johnston, and with me as always, my most special, greatest asset, any and all the above, Mr. Adam Beebe. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, man. Are we running out of superlatives for each other?
God. So yeah, I think that's it.
Honorifics.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Names.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good, man. You know, just keeping in the keeping to the daily grind, as it were, and living as we do in this strange world we find ourselves currently in, and before and after. So, How are you doing, man?
Good, same. Just staying busy as much as we can, and things are good. So, nothing too new to report on that front. But we talked a little bit before we were rolling, and you got something that we were gonna kind of touch on, and it's kind of something pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, first, I was going to mention how your son, your youngest, had a birthday just recently.
That's right. Yes, absolutely. It was yesterday, actually. He turned 17.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Mr. Aiden. He turned 17, the big 1-7. That's wild. Yeah, it's just crazy, man. One more year until he's a full-grown adult, which is just mind-blowing, man. It makes me scared for humanity. It's funny, whenever you're 18, you think you got everything under control, but when you're raising an 18-year-old, you're like, God damn, man, the world has so much to teach, but it's great, man.
Oh, yeah.
It's great. We had a great time. We celebrated with my family over the weekend, and it was good, man. Yeah, we got him a new computer for gaming, and he's so excited, man. So that's like one of his favorite things to do. So
nice, very nice. Well, that's cool, dude. Over the weekend, there was some new news, and this is what you were referring to. Uh-huh. And this is kind of weird. This is kind of future-y, but the U.S. Navy. Seems like we always go to the Navy for news. I'm just noticing a trend. The Navy tested out a new weapon, and it is essentially it's a laser cannon, and they can use this giant laser to shoot drones and aircraft out of the air, and it can shoot boats in the water.
Wow.
And it'll destroy them.
Wow. I saw it is wild, man. I saw the story, and I meant to go and do a little more research on it, but and it escaped me until you brought it up, and it's like it really is like Star Wars type stuff.
Man.
Technology.
Or G.I. Joe.
Yeah, G.I. Joe. Yeah. It is wild.
And it's and I saw a video of it and some pictures of it, and it's just this laser. It's a laser cannon on a boat, man.
Yeah. And
it's just wild, dude. It's like, I remember my dad, who was a science teacher, he really was into lasers. He liked lasers.
Right.
He liked the idea of lasers because, he came from that, he was born just before, or just after World War II, right before we got into it, but it was January 1st, 1942. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we weren't officially in World War II yet. We were getting there because Pearl Harbor had just happened. So he grew up with Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers and all that kind of science fiction type stuff on, in the Saturday movie afternoon serials and stuff like that. And I think that maybe that was sparked part of his imagination with lasers, because he really liked lasers, and whenever like holograms were coming out, he was big into that, because had to do with like lasers and stuff, and laser cut holograms, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But like, this is so far beyond what he was teaching us about back, when we were kids.
Yeah.
20 years ago or whatever, 30 years ago. But like, this is like, I mean, it's insane, dude. Like, the future tech that is happening, it's not the stuff that we were always promised, or we always thought, or, was going to be. We don't have the flying cars, and thank God, because people can barely drive normal
no kidding.
on the Earth cars and without causing trouble.
Yeah.
But like, and I think that's one of the main reasons we don't have flying cars, is because we know that we're not going to handle them well.
People are idiots. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to get fully automated, robotic controlled flying, drones that we could ride in before that kind of thing would happen. But flying cars and jetpacks and all that, and laser guns, and now we're getting the laser guns.
Yeah.
We've got computers that are smarter than anything they could have thought of, in our smartphones, that they're 10 times, 100 times what they were whenever you got your first PCs at home and stuff.
Yeah,
man, it's wild. It's wild,
Yeah, it really is.
But it makes me wonder, is like, where did this technology come from?
Yeah, well,
aliens.
Yeah, I mean, that now we can say that's a legitimate question. It really is. With the information that we're getting from the Navy itself, with the unidentified objects that are caught on film, and especially the stories about Bob Lazar and those things, that who knows, we have probably have a wealth of technologies that we've been trying to crack the code on for quite a while, that we're just now starting to see.
Yeah, I think that. Well, one of the reasons I bring up the aliens, though, is that there's some famous unseen footage, but there's been stories and reports of and I want to say it's the Navy that did this, but it's our United States military back in, I think it was in the 60s, could have been the 70s. I should have researched this before I got on, but I didn't. But because I just remembered the story about how there was a missile test, and this flying object, this UFO, they didn't know what it was, appeared in the airspace close to where these missiles were being tested. And whatever this thing was shot a beam of light at these missiles, and it deactivated the missiles or exploded the head. But they were deactivated. They were shot, and then they didn't work. So, maybe it is something reverse engineered from aliens. I'm not going to, say it's not. I'm not going to say it is for sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to take away from human ingenuity, because we are extremely capable of many things. And when we put our minds behind it, and we put it into testing and research, and we go, back science and give it money and development and stuff, we can come up with some amazing things, and not just for war, but for just in general, like what we humans can do when we put our minds to it, and is pretty amazing. So
absolutely.
So yeah,
man.
so
that's for sure.
I don't know. It's just
it's cool stuff.
It's cool stuff. Random thought. Just fun stuff as well.
For sure. So, hey, speaking of what the human mind is capable of, we brought back one of our favorite guests, and his mind operates. I don't think they've even discovered the planet that he comes from yet. But we've got our good friend Sam to come back.
That's right. We got Sam back. He's returned, and Sam's got more incredible stories of just insanity, of just that is his life. And he's got a couple of different stories to share here, but the main ones are you know what? We'll just let you listen and enjoy. It's always a pleasure, Sam, buddy, to have you on. So once again, Sam, what's your weird story?
I am more college than I've ever been in my life, dude. I'm living at home. I ain't got no job. I'm just day drinking in like bad music T-shirts. I didn't do this in college.
I gotta know what your obsession with is. Is it sarcasm?
Should we start recording?
Yeah, I'm already recording. I'm recording. What is it about Insane Clown Posse? Is it the same fascination I've got with it? But I want to hear your point of view first before I say anything.
For me, man, like my introduction to the clowns was just this guy who was one of my closest friends in the world back in the day showed up one day with this CD and he was like, dude, put this in and it'll change your life. And I wasn't wrong, man. I listened to Riddlebox for 2 weeks nonstop until Drake Malenko came out, and I listened to that for months. And I don't know, like musically, I was always kind of out there. Like I didn't really listen to any music of my generation. I was listening to classic rock, my parents' Peter, Paul, and Mary albums. Uh-huh. Pink Floyd is still the greatest band of all time. But I started listening to this, and it was just insane. I mean, I'm not 100% into every single song that they sing.
Yeah.
But
you're a fan.
I dig it.
Okay.
Oh, I've been to 9
he's not just a fan. He's a full-fledged juggalo is what he is, man. And I mean, it's like, well, yeah, first of all, he's in his shirt. He's got his juggalo shirt. He's got his fucking juggalo flag flying behind him. His hatchet man thing.
That flag is special. I had that. That's a bootleg flag I had made in China. If you'll notice, the hatchet is the state of Oklahoma.
Oh, nice.
That's great.
For when we hosted the gathering was here 3 years ago. The last one I went to back in 2017, and it did not go well.
Yeah,
I heard about that. But that wasn't. How many gatherings have you been to?
I believe I've been to 9 out of 20.
Wow.
And basically, the gatherings are this for people who are unfamiliar, or fortunately unfamiliar with the ICP, Insane Clown Posse. But it's a huge music fest of all the biggest losers that you know. I mean, of all the fans of ICP. I'm just ripping on Sam, his culture there. But yeah, it's just this huge, and it's debaucherous. Yes, there's lots of drinking. There's lots of Faygo. There's lots of drugs. There's lots of like face paint. There's lots of unattractive people. There's lots of late 90s emo haircuts, or early 2000s scene stuff. Lots of guy liner, I would imagine. Yeah. I mean, I know that Sam has, at least I know he's got a story of being on the bus whenever you'd like get on the tour bus, right? You paid to take a tour of the tour bus. I think that's a story that I recall. Well,
so the first 3 gatherings were in convention centers. They were only like 2 nights long, and 2 or 3 nights. Mm-hmm. And they just had like, during the daytime, they'd open up the convention center like late morning. Kitty cat. Goki has a cat that you can't see out there in Radioland. But yeah, they'd open up these convention centers and they just had like daytime activities. Like you could go take a stroll through old. They'd set up their like concert stage sets, and you could like take a stroll through that, or they had like video rooms set up where you could. They're always like contest orientated, so you can get like you could be the Psychopathic Records dawn of the day at one contest, and they'd fly you into Detroit Murderous, and you'd get to sit like in the office chairs and literally run Psychopathic Records for a day. Poker contest. Watching they'd take clips from like old kung fu movies, and you'd have to like guess who would win, and then if you got it right, you'd win prizes. And always costume contests, tattoo contests. But one of the first years, they had the first year, because it was up in Novi, and they actually had their tour bus. and they would let you go out and take a tour around Detroit Murderous, and they'd show you like some sites relevant to clowndom. So I was like, this is awesome. I'll do that. But also, I was kind of naked that day too.
And do you mean, what do you mean by naked, Sam? Do you mean by actually naked, or were you like, did you have face paint on, or was it just,
Well, I've never liked stuff on my face.
What's that?
Oh no, I had a trench coat on. I've never really liked like stuff on my face, so I've ever painted a few times out of all my clown stuff. No, I was sleeping in a minivan in a parking lot of the convention center because I wasn't gonna throw down on a hotel. That's crazy talk. So I wake up one morning. Excuse me. I wake up one morning and there's this guy. He comes out of his car down the way and he is just like full on like clown makeup and clown costume. And he walks over and he sees me popping. I always had like a lot of breakfast beer, so I'm like cracking my second PBR of the day. He's like, "What up, Ninja? I'll give you some of this for a beer." And he just, he whips out like a handful of window pane LSD. It's like, okay. So I had beer and acid for breakfast. A gaggle of like young children, man, probably. I hope they were 10 years old, or else this makes the story like it makes me way worse than the story if they're younger than 10. But I don't know the age of children. Like Hubbard's daughter the other day, like I know she's old enough to grab a beer, but I don't know if she's old enough to mix a martini yet. That's my categorization of children. Give me a beer. Can you mix me a drink? Can you drive me home? That's how I organize children. So these kids come over. Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I'm trying to imagine my son mixing me a drink. That would be a nightmare. Or it might be good, actually.
Yeah. Well, a younger girl's gonna mix it neat. She's gonna make it's gonna be tidy and clean,
right?
Predominantly, but a boy's just gonna pour in whatever he can find into a bucket and give it to you. So,
right.
Oh, like Thailand, or if a girl does it, maybe it'll have like sparkles and stuff. That's cool though, because it's nice going in and out. So these kids come up. Oh, yes. Sorry, back on track.
Back on track. Back on track.
So these kids come up and they're like, "Hey, man, we'll trade you fireworks for beer." And I was like, well, these kids are old enough to have fireworks. They must be old enough to have beer, because that's somehow a thing. And so that's a
logical jump that's a logical conclusion to come to when you are a naked man in a trench coat giving beer to children in exchange for fireworks. That's maybe the acid had something to do with it, but were you naked at this point, actually?
So I was just getting up to do like my morning pee, and so I threw on this Marlboro Miles old duster trench coat that I had that has been in a lot. Me and the Marlboro coats. I've never smoked, but I've cleaned out several of the old Marlboro Miles catalogs, and so I've got a lot of their jackets that figure into a lot of adventures. And so I just got like these knockoff Vietnam era combat boots, because like, damn, that's what you need, like hardcore clothing to get through anything clown related. So I just slipped on the boots and I had on the trench coat, and I was going to go have a whiz behind some other cars. And then like all this stuff started happening, and I just didn't get a chance to put clothes on, because like any normal human, I sleep butt ass naked. And so I hand the kids a bunch of beer, and I was like, "What about the fireworks?" They're like, "Open your pocket." Not realizing that, my trench has got like this super deep pocket. So there I am with the pocket all extended, and they just start throwing stuff in there, all sorts of little like whiz bangers and poppers and God knows whaters and black cats. And so, all right, man, time to start my day. And of course, I forgot to put on clothes. So I go into the convention center, and they had like this big, there was a haunted house set up on the floor of the convention center. And so I'm waiting to go in line for that. And I'm just kind of standing around, kind of, starting to feel good and drunk and high. And it's like people in front of me, behind me are like, hey, shh, here's some fireworks. Set them off when you get inside. So, you got all the funhouse ninjas are in there, like standing, waiting in their spots, waiting to come out and surprise your butt. But all of a sudden, you've got like all these crazy juggalos just flinging fireworks and shooting bottle rockets and scaring the crap out of them. And yeah, it didn't do well for the funhouse. So I go through the whole day, man. It's just nonstop stuff going on, man. I got to meet Missy, who was this like 400-pound actress from there. They've made 2 motion pictures, the first of which Big Money Hustlers, which is a 1970s style bad cop movie.
And, yes, it was up for an Academy Award, I believe.
It was. Should have, man. It had Dolomite in there. It had some people, man.
Nice.
It's good stuff. But in the movie, Shaggy has this like 400-pound girlfriend that he has like this massively rock hard built stunt double that comes in and bangs her while she eats the little what's the Hostess pink cocaine pink
snowballs.
Snowballs. Yeah, so she's munching snowballs while she's getting plowed. It's one of the most romantic sex scenes you've ever seen. But she was there, so I got to like hang with her and take pictures. And they had their own wrestling circuit, so there were like all these wrestlers there, and again just all these juggalos, man. People just getting crazy, getting nuts. Like we'd been, it was a wild event. So finally, like in the afternoon, man, I'm just kind of just whiz banged out, and I'm like, man, I gotta get away from people for a moment. I need to get some air. And then I just suddenly found myself standing in line to get on a tour bus. Like, I don't really know how I got there, but it sounded like a good thing to do at the time. And I get aboard, and it's just like this really super nice, RV basically that, it's the people driving it around town, and they've got a security guy. He just sits up at the very front, and they've got us, there's like maybe 7 or 8 of us seated around this kind of like a horseshoe shaped couch thing in the back. And we're just sitting around talking, sharing clown stories, and they're, on the mic telling us like, blah, blah, blah. If you look to your right, there's an old ICP graffiti from when they were actually, they originally started as a gang called the Inner City Posse that used to get their butts kicked a lot. And so somebody had put a big K on it for kill ICP. So there's vintage graffiti in Detroit. Just amazing stuff.
Wow.
And as we're sitting, I'm just kind of looking around. I'm like, hey, what's that behind you? And the way that this couch thing is centered in the RV, it's got these flat spaces around the back, and I noticed some cracks in there, and I figured out that it was storage compartments, and so I busted one open and found that was the cooler. So we just started drinking all of the booze aboard. Like, oh, thank God, man. Like, I really needed a drink, and they're like, why? And one of the girls looks over, and then she sees it. Oh, he's naked. That's why. So at that point, like, what are you on? What are you on? And we shared all the beers. I grabbed a cushion from a seat for some reason. I don't know. But I survived the bus. I survived the show. Somebody drank my urine. I got to jump up on stage the final night. Just amazing clown stuff.
You had me at urine, man. You had me at urine.
This is the last day of the show, and I think what was it, Cottonmouth Kings out of California had been on. And just like you're up at close to the stage, you don't want to give up that position. And so just whatever random juggalo I was talking to, we both mentioned the fact, oh man, gotta piss. And so just out of nowhere, like people are throwing around empty bottles of Faygo, because another part of clown shows is from a weird little accident that happened way back in the day. They started throwing 2-liter bottles of Faygo, which is like Detroit's cheap, nasty, well, it's actually really tasty, but just cheap soda, like Shasta down here.
Right.
And so they bring in entire like 18-wheelers, follow them on tour just to supply Faygo.
Wow.
And so during the shows, they've got these bins on stage. Everything on stage is waterproofed, including including and especially the mics. And while they're up there just dropping lyrics, they're casually just grabbing a 2-liter and shaking it and throwing it at you. Sometimes they have like the mini trampoline things for like, exercise studios. They're bouncing the 2 liters off of that. The house lights will come on, and all of a sudden, you've been in this dark, weird, crazy lighting. All of a sudden, it's bright as hell, and all these like string of dancing clowns come out with water guns and buckets, and they say, "Fago break." Send your mama straight down to the stove. Tell that bitch to bring home some Fago. And we're back. And they just start throwing out 5-gallon buckets of cola at you, hosing you down with water guns. For a while, they'd actually hooked it up to like fire hoses.
Wow.
And so, I mean, you don't come out of that show dry. There's confetti and like glitter being tossed around. And yeah, it's a nasty thing. So everybody, you bring your own Fago to shows too. And so like before any of the shows start, everybody's tossing garbage at each other. And so this guy just grabs a 2-liter and just starts pissing and hands me one. So I fill up a Mountain Dew bottle and like, all right, Captain, like, what do we do? And he's just like, here, whoom, and just tosses it over his head. I'm like, oh, yeah, here you go. Toss mine to the right. And it was yellow. It was Mountain Dew. I watched some guy pick it up. And
I watched a homeless man drink his own piss once.
I remember when we were at Boise State. I think it was like the first day, and I was hanging out in your room, Hub, because you were in a different town or whatever than I was. And if you don't know what Boise State is, it's just something that's supposed to look good on your transcripts when you're applying for college. It was like it was the closest thing that I've ever been to the military, and was very happy to not do that anymore. You're supposed to learn about government and being a young man and all this crap, and it was all very, very strange, very weird. But anyway, it was the first day that we're there. I'm hanging out in Hub's because we stayed in dorms in Miami, Oklahoma, and we're hanging out. And I don't know, it was you and me. Was it somebody like a roommate or somebody different that we didn't know? There's 3 of us in there. But anyway, Jeff's like, man, I gotta pee. And he looks around and he sees this Dr. Pepper 16 or 24 ounce, I think, Dr. Pepper bottle there. And he's just like, I'm gonna pee in this. So he turns around and he starts peeing in it. And it's like three quarters of the way gone. Most of it's gone, but he's going and he's going. This little man must have a huge bladder, because all of a sudden he's like, oh no, it's going. I'm filling it up, guys. It's
going to overflow. Oh.
Oh my god!
And he capped it off, but he had to like mop it up. The corner of that, like mop it up with like a t-shirt or some shit. But put the cap on, and then we would put it in like a hallway, thinking that somebody's gonna like grab this very light, very yellow and light brown colored liquid, thinking, "Oh, free Dr. Pepper."
Oh God.
Man, I don't know how you remember all that shit.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's good shit.
That was before college and before I,
right,
made my memories more attainable things. So.
Drink to that.
Yeah.
What? So the clowns get on stage. Sorry, there's like one more nugget to this.
Great. So I gotta hear it.
The stage, and they've got their whole setup. It looks like this flaming pit of hell, and it's really crazy crap going on. And used to like part of the end of every clown show was that everybody would rush the stage for like the last 3 songs or so. And so everybody's just up there dancing and cavorting together and just getting nuts. And, of course, this is in 2000. So people, nothing's legal in America yet. So everybody's up there like, look at me smoking joint. Ah! And I jump up on there and I fell into like the goo that was between the barricade and the stage, like 4 inches of just standing flat Faygo and sweat and urine and whatever else had made down there. It was grotesque. So I climb up on the stage and, I've made it over the barricade. I'm all ripped up and I'm still just blown out of my mind. And I see like one of the basins where they were keeping their Faygo bottles is empty. So I climb up on it and I'm just standing there, taking my view upon the crowd and the masses and the thousands of juggalos assembled before me. And I'm just like, man, this is like the perfect end of the day. I just did so much crazy shit the last couple of days. And now here I am just standing up here, just checking out my juggalo family. And I see somebody point at me and I was like, yeah, man, they're pointing at me because I'm so cool. And I see like more people point at me like, yeah, dude, how cool am I right now? I mean, I'm also high as hell too, but like, yeah, I'm the coolest mother up here. And then like I look down and survey my kingdom, and I realized that all the buttons had come off my trench, and I'm just standing there just flapping in the wind. Butt ass. All I've got combat boots and a fully open duster.
Oh, like, man.
Oh shit. I look down and Violent J is off to the side of me, and he like points up at me for security. Apparently that was, even juggalos have a little bit of limit. So I hop down off the stage. I run around towards the back of the stage, and on my way, like I grab this tiny little like a 3-inch piece of the plastic horn from part of the stage and just ripped it off. And that was my souvenir. I ran back around the stage to the other side and just dove out in the crowd, and it was a magical night. I still got my piece of stage.
Nice.
They didn't have, like, now when you go to the gatherings, they have these like really dope metal charms for each one and a wristband. And all you had back then was like some crap plastic wristband. So I was like, at a first gathering, I got my program, I got my wristband, and I got my chunk of stage.
That's awesome.
And the pillow from the bus.
That's awesome.
Sam, have you ever met the actual ICP? Have you ever met them in person?
Oh yeah, like a handful of times, man.
Have you told them of that story where you were the trench coat, you were the flasher, the classic flasher on that at that show?
Oh, I've straight up apologized to Violent J for it before. He's like, Dad, I don't remember any of that. Yeah, he was. Funny, I don't know how out of it he was. Yeah, no, I gave him a copy of my book at the Oklahoma gathering. Like a lot of times at gatherings, like when that stuff's all done, because they put so many months of their lives into getting this stuff ready. Because there's no corporate sponsorship on this. It's 100% psychopathic. Not even Faygo won't have anything to do with them. They
really
Faygo Corporation acknowledges that yes, these clown people purchase vast quantities of their product, but yeah, there has never been a Faygo, no matter how many mentions of in the songs and on the gear and stuff. Like there's the big clown news website is called Faygo Lovers with a U, FaygoLovers.net out of, I believe, Dallas. And yeah, I mean, there's no actual connection between Faygo and anything clown related.
Wow. They've got a lot of their business, I'm sure, to because of them. I'd imagine.
Surprising, because generally speaking, in broad terms, and I'm stereotyping here, but juggalos are, very respected in society and throughout the world as productive members.
True.
Not doing anything, any kind of illegal anything or whatever. No. So they're not on any kind of FBI watch list as a gang. So, which is really strange that they are actually considered to be an organized gang by the FBI. So,
no, we are a transient unorganized gang.
Oh, okay.
Which just means we're all a bunch of a-holes that listen to the same music. What the shit is that, man? Right. So if you listen to Justin Bieber and you're a 30-year-old man, you're an unorganized transient child molester.
Right.
I mean, just because they can take a stab, and it's just so like small towns and stuff. Their police forces can get more money off that gang stuff.
Right.
So they're like, look,
Right.
there's a guy wearing an Insane Clown Posse shirt at Walmart today, so we can file to get like one of those, like a SWAT tank for our city.
That's
So
crazy.
what has Weatherford gotten from you?
A lot of near misses. Nobody cares out here.
I went down a rabbit hole one day on YouTube with the Juggalo documentaries and stuff, man. I spent the better part of an afternoon just like really deep diving, man, going in there. I gotta say, it's probably like, I like to go, as far as people watching, I would love to go to one of those just to watch, just to see what exactly it's all about.
Right.
But I don't want to pay a ticket price.
Would you go undercover?
Oh, they're cheap.
Barry, would you dress as a Juggalo so that you would
Go
blend in
undercover?
with the crowd?
I don't know.
And
I
go
don't know.
undercover-
I don't think I could do
Juggalo?
it. I don't think I could pull it off, man.
Nobody cares. No, honestly, man. Like it's the most freakishly just uncollective group I can imagine. Like you'll have like the most hardcore person walking into like a normal concert, not the gathering, but just like that's got like ICP merch from like head to toe, shoes, hats, shirts, underwear, bras, you name it, they got it. And like all the makeup, and have like every Joker's card tattooed on their body. And then somebody walks in with like, I don't know, man, a Limp Bizkit shirt or something. And nothing, nothing on them. And everybody's welcome, dude. Like that whole thing that people talk about. If you said you watched some of the docs and stuff. The whole like family. They're all over that, dude. It is like the weirdest group of beautifully fugly people I've ever met that all just want to hug and just like, where you at, Ninja? Where you from? And they're all about like claiming where they're from, but also like mingling and getting it all together.
Yeah. That's cool.
It's
good, man.
It's a lot of love. Man. I've never experienced anything bad.
Yeah,
except for the occasional people, like you get some like non-Juggalo a-holes will show up. One of the gatherings I was at, this guy got caught. He was going through people's tents and stuff, stealing shit. So then they went and found his car and they beat it up and flipped it over. I don't know if they torched it or not, but then it turned out it wasn't actually his car.
Oh shit! Oh, no, sorry, brother. We fucked your car up, man. Have some Fago.
The guy was like the lead car beaters. That was actually his car. So,
if anybody can get that wrong, it'd be a bunch of drunk Juggalos.
That's funny.
Otherwise, great people. They'll do horrible things with the greatest of intentions.
I think that's just humankind in general, right there.
True. But yeah, I've been to a lot of concerts, a lot of the gatherings. I've stapled money to people. I've stabbed at shit once. It's
Wait, hold on. Reverse. Okay, so I understand the stapling money to people. I've seen that before. We've got some, guests here that have been on the show in the past. They're sideshow performers and clowns and stuff. And I've seen people, take a staple gun and, shoot a dollar bill, staple a dollar bill or 5 or 20, wherever, the higher the number on the bill, the more risque and painful they can get. Well, yeah, and also, I mean, was it Jeremy or was it Birdshot that was doing the sack to sack?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. So anyway, I understand that. I know that, but
wait, you understand that? What is that?
Well, I understand that happened. I've seen it.
I mean, I love you, dude, but I don't want my nuts stapled to your nuts. You know what I mean?
No, I don't.
We could all meet up for like a very special recording of What's Your Weird Story, where we've got one mic between us.
I think it's a lot of corporate sponsors getting a lot of corporate sponsor money coming in for that to happen. So it's got to be a big check for us to staple. But anyway, you said you stabbed a girl. Now, is that a euphemism or actually?
No. Like I had a knife in my hand and stabbed a chick. It was one of the, like, after the gatherings went outdoors. This is one of the last ones that I went to, and I was hanging out. I've met up with this really great group of people that usually attend all the gatherings, and so when I'm with them, like I ended up. We're at each other's campsite nonstop, and just it's my people. And we're up on this hill where they're camped out at. And one morning, I get over to their site, and we're consuming our breakfast substances, and because that's all. The gatherings are pretty much like a Hunter S. Thompson kind of marathon of see how much crap you can put into you and not die. Mm-hmm. So I've got my my breakfast array. And we're going for it, and there's this tent nearby that opens up, and this girl comes out with two guys on leashes and a bunch of leather, and she starts talking to us and telling us all like the crazy stuff she's into. She likes her bondage. She's a dominatrix, and these are the two boys that I've picked up at the gathering, and it was a lot of wild stuff. And then she pulls out this big Rambo knife and starts telling us how she's into I like to be cut, I like to be sliced, and oh wow, that's words that are coming out of your mouth. Wow. So she hands me the knife and she says, "Hey, I want you to cut me." I'm trying to hand it back, and I'm like, "Thank you. That's a lovely offer, but no." So now the language in this part gets a little bit off color. It's like, "No, stab me, you little bitch." I'm like, no, I really, it's 10 o'clock in the morning at the gathering. So I'm already what would normally be 3 a.m. messed up at 10 a.m. And I'm just like, "No, man, no. What are you, little effing bitch? I'll give me this, don't you stab me." And for 5 minutes while everybody's just sitting there staring in disbelief, it was like hanging out with our old friend across the street from Hub and Jizzball's house. And she's just screaming crazy obscenities at me. And just "Do it, you little bitch, do it. Blah, blah, blah." So finally I was like, "Okay." And just sunk it into her arm, below her shoulder.
Damn.
She shut up. It went there away.
Holy shit, man. Wow. Wow. Damn.
Oh, man. Hey man, did I ever tell you about this recent thing that happened to me? I was driving around in the country and it was just after dusk. So there's a little bit of light still coming on out of the sky, but it was mostly dark. I saw this black school bus.
I don't think I've ever heard this.
Okay, so I saw this black school bus. All the windows were tinted and it started following me for about 15 minutes.
Whoa, no.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I was at work. I was making deliveries and I just kept making my deliveries and it would even stop and wait for me. And but it was never close enough to where I could see it or anything, but it was following me, man.
Wow. Dang.
That's just an example of another really weird story that happened to me and that could have happened to you. You don't have to have a UFO encounter. You don't have to have seen the ghost of your grandmother. You don't have to know what Bigfoot smells like to have had a weird story. Basically, what we're saying is weird covers a lot of ground here on the What's Your Weird Story podcast. And we love hearing all of your stories, whether they're spooky, they're funny, they're bizarre, or they're just short, sweet, and unexplained. Kind of like our podcast. So, so trying to recover from that, but So you stabbed this girl, and what? And she shut up. And then what happened when whatever did? I mean, obviously everybody's freaking out because Sam, the nicest person you're ever going to meet, just stabbed this chick who's demanded it. Let's be honest. She dommed you into it. She totally broke your will. Did she try to put you in a collar, or was she upset that you actually stabbed her there in the arm?
No, she was cool with it. I think she was dismayed that it took me as long as I did to get around to it. But she already had her guys on collars. Like I guess she was a 2-collar woman, so there was no trying to add to the harem.
Yeah.
How deep do you think? How deep do you think you put it in her, Sam?
Well, I gave it all I had, so maybe an inch. Damn. And it just went over the meat up in the muscle. And
damn, that's pretty far.
It was why? It's the girth of it, right? That was it.
It was a Rambo blade, baby. I don't know. It was just, there was. Of course, it's a gathering, so that probably wasn't like the weirdest thing to happen that day. That was just breakfast insanity.
Right. Yeah, that was just breakfast. Stab somebody.
Oh, wow.
That's hilarious, man. Yeah, I gotta go see what that's all about.
I'm hard pass.
Where are they doing those gatherings now? They've been booted out of pretty much everywhere they've been, right?
Yeah, they've had trouble trying to find places, so they went back to like one of their long-standing outdoor joints called Cave in Rock, Illinois. They were there 2 years ago after not having been there for a while. And it was a great place. That was the one that had the infamous drug bridge. But then I don't know why they didn't go back after that one single year of returning. Last year, they were in an actual RV park somewhere in Illinois. And they're not going back there because after the clowns finished their final performance, everybody, because it's a real RV park, they had nice picnic tables everywhere. They threw all those on a giant bonfire, and
oh my lord!
Juggalos.
Hard to imagine they're not getting that invite again.
No. Right. Well, one of the bigger issues that they have is trying to find somebody to supply us with porta potties because those get roughly destroyed every year.
Oh man, I can imagine.
Well, they get tagged. Juggalos have got big ass black Sharpies they're writing signs and stuff on, and they don't treat them very well. I mean, it looks like someone looks like a poop bomb went off inside.
Oh yeah. Ooh.
One of my early outdoor ones, somebody was in one. And you had the little the grill up towards the top.
The vent.
Somebody come by. Yeah, a little grill vent. Yeah, somebody come by and rip that off. And while somebody was in there taking a dump, they lit just a big old sack of fireworks and flung it in there.
Oh my god!
This Juggalo comes running out, pants around his ankles, and gets maybe 2 or 3 steps before going face forward into the nasty pool of miasma that was outside of God knows what fluids and substances. And yeah, it's you got to stay on your toes at the gathering. That's why I live like a bear. I murder small creatures. I pee in the woods. Actually, I get one of those shower tents, and then a 5-gallon bucket, and just trash bags, and that's my sitting spot for toilet issues.
Wow. Yeah. If I could get a day pass to the gathering, I'd probably go. But I'm not going to do a 4-day.
No, that's what I'm talking about. Day pass, dude.
Yeah,
I ain't hanging out.
They don't sell a day pass.
They did at Oklahoma City.
They did
stuff on the cheap, yeah. But even then, the whole gathering is less. I think it's still under $200 for all 4 days.
That'd probably be worth it just to see.
Oh, all the bands that you get, even if you're not into psychopathic, I mean, in all this stuff, I have, who all have I seen? Coolio and Ice Cube or Ice T. They've both played. I forget which one I saw. I saw one of the Ices. Krispy Kreme or Froggy Fresh played late night at the Oklahoma City Gathering. Mad Child Canada.
I love Krispy Kreme's John Cena Christmas song. So,
exactly.
That's so good. So fucking good.
I'm not familiar.
Well, he's not Krispy Kreme anymore because Froggy Fresh, or something like that. He's a southern white guy that with like a bowl haircut or something, and he's a rapper. But part of his shtick is that he's not he seems like he's not a great rapper, but he's got to be really smart to do what he does. And but he did this Christmas song that's all John Cena themed. Like all of his gifts and everything he wants is John Cena stuff, and it's so epic, dude. It's so good, it's so funny, and it's just so well done. You got to check it out. Check it out. We should take a break right now and you should listen to that because it's good stuff. Everybody, go do that right now. Google it. Krispy Kreme, John Cena Christmas.
And on that note, yes, take a break because I have a smaller glass this time.
Yeah, go for it.
And so there we go. We'll take a break. Seriously, dude, look it up. So we checked out. We hope everybody enjoyed that. It's Froggy Fresh now. You can't go by Krispy Kreme because of legality.
Corporate a-holes.
Right.
Yeah. You would think Krispy Kreme would want to be associated with that type of genius right there. But yeah,
and it's nothing but positivity. There's nothing negative in there. Like the only bad thing he's ever done is played the Gathering and the Juggalos.
I've had some thoughts. I'd written some things down. Some of my favorite Sam stories. Sam, I don't know if you would want to share your South Korean pimp story. Is that
I mean,
I can totally understand if you don't want to, but it's a great story.
No, I'm down. I haven't told that one in a long time. So this might be a little hazy.
So wait,
that's good.
Okay, so I'm guessing that you. I'll just let you tell.
Well, excuse me. I lived in Korea for 15 years, and I have not always had like the best of luck with the fair sex, man. I was pretty weird for over here, and in the very conservative, like looks orientated country of South Korea, man, I did not go well. Where everybody's got to dress well and have like fancy haircuts and all the latest styles. I'm walking around in like 15-year-old concert T-shirts, and I only had one brand of pants.
Jams.
Just normal stuff. Oh, I still had a couple pairs of jams. Hell yeah, dude! I jammed the jams, and so I've been lucky. Like I've had some dating experiences over there. I've dated a couple like fellow English teachers and a couple Koreans, but when there's like 30,000 English teachers, foreign English teachers living in Korea, 30,000 U.S. military hanging out there, and then 50 something million Koreans. So statistically, I'm going to date more Koreans than anybody else. But no, like I made the rounds and had some really good relationships with some amazing people, some really crap relationships with some real crap people. I sort of dated / hooked up with a married chick for quite a while before I finally learned that she was married and had kids and 2 other boyfriends.
Wow.
Like, yeah. It took four guys to make her happy.
Hey.
But then there was this bar that I used to hang out at called the Now Bar. And down west of where I lived, like I was as far southeast of Seoul as you could possibly be and still claim to be a suburb of Seoul. Okay. And a little west of where I was is this area called Dongtan, a suburb of Suwon. And there was a bunch of English teachers there. And the way everything's set up, they've got these massive, like 15, 20-story office buildings. And usually, like the first 3 or 4 floors are going to be like restaurants and business, like what they call noraebang, which is literally singing room. Bars, restaurants, DVD bongs, these places where you spend like $15 to go in a little private room and watch DVDs, computer rooms where you can just sit and play computer games for an hour, $1 an hour, and a lot of hagwon. And hagwon is a Korean word for academy, which is what the majority of English teachers there are working at. So I had this buddy of mine, oh God, and British Lloyd, he had been in Korea for a while. He left to go home for a bit, and he comes back, and he decided that he would choose his next, not Lloyd, Andy, sorry, my bad, British Andy. He came back, and he chose his next place of work based upon its proximity to his favorite bar. So it was these 2 15-story buildings with nothing but an alley separating them. So he would go in, and your hagwon teachers generally work somewhere between like 1 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 6 or 9 o'clock at night. So he'd go finish up work. He'd go down like 2 or 3 floors. He'd cross the alley, and he'd go up to the bar, and he'd stay there till like 3 a.m. And he'd go home, wash, rinse, repeat. So that's how amazing this bar was.
I think you mentioned him last time.
Possibly, man. Sorry. Andy shows up in a lot of stuff. Okay. He was a good friend of mine. But this is the bar that we loved. And one day I was just in there on my own. Like I enjoyed going to places a little bit early and sitting and doing some writing and just some solo drinking for a few minutes. And I just showed up with no plans. I wasn't actually meeting anybody. And I'm sitting at this table, and there's these 2 middle-aged Korean guys at the next table. And so they start talking to me because Koreans are this collectivistic society, and they don't like people to do anything alone. So like I've spent years traveling alone through the countryside and just being like grabbed by random Koreans to go do stuff, hang out at restaurants, go to singing rooms, all sorts of weird, wild stuff. And so this guy, one of the 2 guys at this table, he grabs me. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing here alone?" Of course, he doesn't really speak any English, and my Korean is negligible. So I started explaining, friends are coming later, which I didn't know that, but it's now bar, so I knew it. So he exchanges phone numbers because you got to have a business card in Korea. So we do the double-handed business card exchange, and like, all right, man, I'm never going to hear from this guy again. Every once in a while, Mr. Lee would call me. And he would ask me, are you single? And this said, I'm in my, got to be early 30s at this point. This dude's got to be 50 if he's a day. And, he just asks you, 여자 친구 있어요? Do you have a girlfriend? I'm like, no, 여자 있어요. I have a girlfriend. Okay, down she got next time. It's like, all right, buddy. And it was just really weird.
Was that all he asked? He just called up and say, "Hey, Sam, what's going on? You got a girl? You got a girl? Yeah. Okay. All right. Maybe next time. No. Okay. And that was it.
Okay.
Yeah, that was it. That's all he had for me. So one day, I'm up in Seoul at this place called the Noryangjin Fish Market that has like 800 seafood vendors. It's where they do all the late night auctions for the seafood in Seoul. And they have these restaurants that don't have food. You walk through the seafood market and you buy all your seafood and you take it in these restaurants and you pay them to cook it for you. And they've got, like shrimp and flounder and salmon and stuff. And like these giant crabs that Hubbard's girl could sit on and ride like an RV car. Just like the biggest crabs I've ever seen.
Wow.
Octopus arms.
These are sea crabs, yes.
Yes.
Not like the other. Okay.
Not
like what you
crabs.
had. Okay.
Not Christmas crabs. Octopus tentacles. It looked like they'd been cut off a tree. just and all manner of like seafood you've never seen before. Like the old Simpsons episode where Ron Howard tells Homer that he's taking his kids to the special rich people zoo, and they talk about some like singing hippo or some crap, and they got all the animals that normal people don't get to see. That's the way this market is. Just all sorts of stuff I've never imagined before. It's a very, very Star Wars Cantina looking action. Well, I'm there with the Southside Hash House Harriers, this drinking club with a running problem I'm a part of, which is a whole nother collection of stories.
Yeah, we're going to have to touch on that at some point.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So we're in there. There's like 20 of us just pounding soju and beer after having gone on a run for a couple miles around this hilly neighborhood. And at the time, I was sort of single. There was this woman that she'd lived in Denver, Colorado for like 7 years and spoke English really well and had worked in my neighborhood at a restaurant. And we just started becoming friends and eventually became more than friends, but not a whole lot more. We'd become friendly for a night or two. It was really weird. Like I had a lot of feelings for this girl, but I don't think it was quite reciprocated. And as time went on, like it kind of got weird. And she had quit that job. She would be at this Chinese restaurant. She started working at this samgyeopsal, the three-stripe pork restaurant that are very ubiquitous across the country. And it's just people in there grilling strips of like fat bacon on their grills and smoking cigarettes and pounding alcohol. And so she would finish work at like 2 or 3 in the morning. She'd call me up drunk and like, hey, let's hook up.
Like, so you're a booty call.
I was, and which was okay because like I was single and except for her, so I didn't care. But at the same time, like on a work night, man, she's calling at like 3 a.m. and I lived out in the middle of nowhere. And so, her calling up at 3 a.m. and demanding that I like somehow magically transport myself half an hour from where I lived with no means of doing so when I had I had to be at class at either 9:05 or 10:30 or 11:50 in the morning. I had a busy day. I just wasn't going to do it. I got tired of the shenanigans. So we were supposed to have met up this afternoon that I'm doing all this seafood. So to, properly prepare to meet this girl that I liked, I went out and got sweaty doing this trail with Ashers. I got good and drunk during what they call the circle that happens afterwards, the ceremony. And then I got
jerk.
Just circle.
Okay.
The down. There's been a jerk or two there.
Yeah, I guarantee it.
Continue to get way drunker at the restaurant, and my phone rings, and it's her, and she's like, Morio Apo, I've got a sore throat. I can't meet you. Like, holy crap. Like, it was the first time we were going to meet in daylight hours in a while. And this is on a Sunday afternoon. So I'm like, all right, I'm free. I'm going to stay here because I was getting ready to leave all my friends. And like, all right, man, I'm going to stay and hang out. And so, we're all excited about that. And this goes on. And an hour or two later, I get this phone call. And it's this guy, Mr. Lee. I said, hey, are you single? I'm like, yeah, I am. So he tells me to come down to this Dongtan area, very close to Now Bar. And he's like, do you know the 7-Eleven outside the closed down movie theater? Like, yeah. So I travel. This is like an hour south for me. But again, it puts me a lot closer. Like I'm within taxi distance of my home, but it was still like a long haul south. So I get down there and he drives up and he tells me that we're going to go meet some women. I'm like, all right, man, I'm curious, like, for information for my book, to have stories to tell. Like, I'm pretty much up for whatever. So like, yeah, man, I'll go meet you. Let's go. Like, I want to see what kind of girls this guy's going to scare up for us. I think he's married too, but whatever. So I get to his car and I go around to the passenger side door and he's like, no, Anio. And he points to the back and he makes me sit in the back seat like it's a limo style car, even though it's just this piece of crap beat up like 15-year-old sedan. Like it it doesn't look nice at all. Like, there's no reason to have the seat pushed forward because there's no business in Korea where anybody would pay him to be traveled around in this back seat like this. There's no logic in it. So I hop in the back seat of his car and he takes off and he says, we get a couple formalities out of the way. He says, Sam, Viagra 먹었어요? I'm like, what? Viagra 먹었어요? I'm like, no, dude. So Viagra is the Korean transliteration of Viagra. And I'm like, what? Dude? 먹었어요 is passing, did you eat? So he's like, dude, did you eat Viagra? And I'm like, no. And then he's driving, like he just turns and looks into the rearview mirror so he can see me in the back seat. And he's like, Chincha, really? He's like, Viagra 안 먹었어요. Like, you didn't eat Viagra. I'm like, no, dude, I'm not eating Viagra. What the fuck? What the fudge? And so as he's trying this whole time, he's still got his eyes on the rearview mirror. He's driving. We're not like at a light. We are in motion. And his eyes are staring at me. He pulls his wallet out. Again, still staring in the mirror, not looking at the road, not looking at both hands on the wallet. And he pulls out of his wallet some sketchy looking like knockoff Viagra package. And he pops one out. And he's like, Yogi, Mogolio, here, eat. And I'm like, what is this shit? And now this is also the day my first day of the new fall semester is starting in the morning. So I'm like, man, I'm really, really like drunk as hell. I need to get home. Like it's probably 8 or 9 o'clock. Like I need to go to bed. I don't know what he's got up his sleeve other than Viagra. So he hands me this blue tab and he's still like, he won't stop staring at the mirror. So I kind of like palm it and do like the whole fake like glump, glump. Hey, Anio, no. Really? Eat that. Dude. It's like, all right, man, I guess. I mean, if I can't trust Mr. Lee's pocket Viagra, what can I trust?
Yeah, Sam, I've never known you to turn down a pill before, so.
True. I am like wastebasket pills. Or everything for that matter. So I pop it, and he tells me that we're going to go meet these girls at a love motel. And I think I briefly talked about this last time, man. You know, they've got these places you can go rent by the hour overnight, and they're usually not the cleanest of places. But I sleep in a lot of them because they're cheap. And although they do have really nice ones and really weird ones too, really weird ones. So we get to this place and he parks and he's like, all right, man, we're going to go see. She's on the 7th floor. We go up the elevator and he knocks on the door and this woman answers. And she's probably about late 30s-ish Korean woman. And there's nobody else in there. It's just her and he and I. And I'm like, man, this is all just a little odd. So he introduces us and he says, hey, I'm gonna run down to the convenience store and bring back some stuff. So he just leaves us in this little love motel at the foot of the bed. It's got this tiny little like love seat thing, and we take a seat on there and start talking. And he comes back a few minutes later with a bag of beers and a plate of excuse me. He comes back with a bag of beers and a plate of what they call anju, which is like side dishes or snacks, because Koreans don't believe and Asians in general do not believe that you should just drink without something to munch on. And like even the bars there, like you got to order a half a fried chicken or a $30 plate of fruit and just crazy stuff. So he's got this little convenience store segregated plate there with like little dried anchovies and peanuts and dried seaweed and stuff. So we're kind of sitting there snacking on that, talking. Mr. Lee finishes like a third of his beer and he puts it down and 안녕하세요, 안녕하세요. And he's like, I'm out. And he just leaves. And so now I'm just like there with this woman that I've known for maybe 10 minutes who doesn't really speak much English. So we gotta start talking, man. This is what's your X-rated weird story? So I'm not going to put the kids to bed because I'm not going to censor this.
Earmuffs, everybody. Earmuffs for the little ones. There shouldn't be kids listening to this anyway.
Turn it up for the kids.
Actually, go get your kid, Jeff. Bring her in here. So she can learn. Uncle Sam can set her straight. So.
Oh, you think I haven't told you this story before?
Tales of the Orient with Uncle Sam.
Her dad pass out whenever I visit them, so it's just me and her by the end of the night.
Yeah, she can put away quite a few. So,
he's beaten me shots of roulette before. So we're just sitting there, and I'm like, I wonder, I don't know, maybe this guy thinks that this young lady and I should be dating. Like, is this the next great love story of my life? She just reaches over and latches on to my honker. I'm like, oh! So we, love motels always come with like this little zippered package of stuff. Like there'll be some women's hygiene products in there. There'll be a comb, some toothbrushes and like single-use toothpaste, Q-tips, and always a condom or two. So I got to struggle into a Love Motel condom, and we had some fun. And we're like a while later, we're getting cleaned up and whatever that Viagra stuff, man. I don't know what like Cambodian children made that, but holy moly. There was some fast acting Tinactin and just wouldn't stop. So like we did what we did, and I'm like, man, maybe like this is the part of the date where we get to know each other. So we both take showers and we're on the bed and we're talking, and she just kind of like brushes my thigh and boom, back at attention, baby. So we just like for hours and hours, like we'd go at it, we'd clean up, we'd go at it again, and just doom, 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 on and off, on and off, on and off. And finally, at like some god-awful hour, she's like, I gotta go home because I still live with my parents. Like, Koreans tend to live with mom and dad until they get married.
Right.
And we weren't getting hitched that night. So she goes, I get home and I try to sleep, but I can't because like every time I roll over on my belly, boing, mattress stabbing all night long, and I'm just so uncomfortable. Like I tried to take a shower before that first class, and just like every time I rubbed up against anything accidentally, like my thigh touches the desk, just like jaws like surfacing down there. God. Hours of the day, like walking half doubled over, trying to fake a back pain, and it just like until 8 that night,
our buddy Dirk. You should have talked to our buddy Dirk, because he would have told you the way to go with sweatpants and a stack of books, because that's what he always did.
Stack of books.
Well, I was a professor of freshman English. I don't think sweatpants were exactly proper gear. But yeah, that stuff went for like, I don't know, close to 20 hours, man.
Oh,
it was like
man.
God, dude.
Like just like really low grade speed. So I like kept buzzing and had this kind of like not so distant horniness the whole time. And just it was a hell of a feeling. Not when I wanted it work.
Was it kind of like you were 16 again, or was it just worse than that?
16 and on meth, maybe. I think there was definitely something janky in that Viagra.
Oh, you think?
Yeah.
At least when you're 16, you can make it go away for a minute. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I made mine. I hid mine quite a bit, and it didn't help at all. I mean, that was probably the most I've ever done in a single night in my life. And just, it did not help, man. But yeah, that was Mr. Lee. Great guy. I never saw this woman again. And then I'm fairly certain he pimped me out. I think that chick paid him to bang a foreigner. I honestly believe that's ended up what ended up happening there. Blah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
Pretty wild, dude.
So did you have any relationship with him after all this? Like, did you ever talk about it, or was it just kind of like, well, hey, man, thanks, good to see you, never hear from you again, type of thing?
Are you kidding? At 9 o'clock the next night, I was calling up like, dude, when do we meet next? No.
Hey, that's a nice T-shirt you got on there.
Oh, thanks, dude. It's brand new. Do you like that? It's one of the official What's Your Weird Story T-shirts.
Where'd you get that?
It's funny that you ask. I just got it off the brand new Spreadshirt.com site for the What's Your Weird Story podcast. There's no www. You just go straight to shop.spreadshirt.com/what's without the apostrophe WHATS -WEIRD-STORY, and that'll take you right there.
I mean, you can never own enough clothing.
Well, it's true, Barry. There's t-shirts for the ladies because, they're cut differently. There's hoodies, which are really cool. There's 2 different kinds of hoodies, and there's also tote bags, so you can tote your stuff.
That's so cool, man.
So if you guys go out to spreadshirt.com, What's Your Weird Story, currently there are 2 designs, but there will be more going up very soon. So just keep your eyes out for that. And if you decide to get one of our shirts, tag yourself on Instagram to ours or Facebook. Show your love. Show us what you got. Let's see your true colors.
So I guess, let me think, like one not fast, but like a not epic story to close out this session. Man, yeah, Cairo's definitely for another day. Actually, I've got a really, really horrible one that makes the Viagra and the dolphin very much like less dirtier than Frozen, but it's not one for recording. That might be for another day too.
I still want to hear it though.
Oh, I know. Hubs heard it because I got drunk and I swore I'd never tell anybody, and then like 3 times in a row I got really shit faced and told people forgot. Like, I'm never telling anybody this, and then like E-Boy in general, like, we heard this one. No! I'm not good at keeping my own secrets. I can keep other people's secrets, but not my own. Let me think. What's a positive, uplifting story to end with?
You could talk, or did you think of something, Sam?
I got like a couple little Sam quickies.
Okay.
So like when I lived in Korea and I was single and I just, I'd have a lot of time off, and it's easy to get around, man. Korea's got 50 million people in a place the size of like Indiana, like half of Oklahoma, 50 million people crowded into it. And 2/3 of it's uninhabitable mountains. So imagine, 50 million people crammed into 1/6 of Oklahoma. So they've got subways everywhere, trains and buses, easy as heck to get around. And every once in a while, if I had a few days off, I would just go bounce to a train station, a bus station, and just say, hey, I'll take a ticket on the next thing out of here.
Right.
And I would just go hit random cities, islands, just whatever. And it would lead to just some weird stuff, man. I was out in some countryside place one time, and these old guys, they didn't want me, eating alone. So they'd come, drink, eat with us. So here I am with these, middle-aged Korean guys in suits. They're all chain smoking and drinking. And so we finish up the restaurant. And they're like, come on. We go to Noraebang, the singing room. And in the old days, before we had like the big plasma flat screen, OLEDs, LSD TVs, whatever, they would just hook up like 9 or 16 monitors and have them all wired to show one thing. Mm-hmm. And they're like, all right, man, got to sing Western songs because we got this honky with us. So they're like going through the song book and they're like, oh, here's Elvis. So they start singing Elvis. And the videos in these places, it's usually like some weird, like random nature shots, like stock footage of nature or just random clips out of old Korean dramas. And it just, you never know what's going to come on. And I definitely didn't know that I was going to be watching white people porn. The whole screen, no matter what song they put in, it was just like softcore porn. Just furry white people just going to town. And like 1970s leftovers, some 16 millimeter stuff just on these patched together monitors. Yeah, it's just, you couldn't, I don't know if there was some special thing they had to set that up.
It's like a niche. It's like some sort of niche. Yeah.
I'm sure they got a word for it. So.
Who don't know? But well, also like a lot of these Noraebangs, you go in there with like your company. Like they used to do this thing. We always jokingly called it mandatory fun. They call it Icha. And E is the number 2. So like you'd have these work dinners that you would have to go to at the conclusion of the day's business. And so it'd just be like you and all these other dudes in suits sitting around getting drunk while you grilled some meat and smoked like 5 packs of cigarettes each. And then you'd go to one of these KTV Noraebang places and then there'd be girls in there. And so now all of a sudden it's like all you and your coworkers just like throwing the Mac down on all these, youngish chicks. And I had a friend of mine, this guy, a hasher named Jammies, and he loved to tell this story about how he didn't understand the Korean culture. And so his first work drink dinner thing, he brought his wife, who Bed Springs, her hash name, Bed Springs is this amazing Alsatian French gal. And I love their whole family. I've had many adventures with them.
Bed Springs is her last name? Not like
hash.
Oh, her hash name. Okay. Still not. Okay.
Not too subtle.
Yeah. Not at all.
So she comes out with this work dinner, and all the Koreans are just giving him the stink eye, and they don't, why's this bitch there? So they go to the KTV room. Like it was a very weird, awkward evening. He's like, man, they really don't like my foreign. But they tell him the next day, look, you don't bring wives of these. We don't bring our wives. You don't bring your wife. This is just for work people. And he's like, oh, okay. That's weird. I mean, he worked for Samsung. It wasn't like some private little company. He works for like one of the largest companies in the world.
Right.
And so their next meeting, their next work dinner thing, he goes to, leaves Bed Springs at home, and they're tearing it up. They go to the singing room, and in comes like the line of girls. And you're just sitting there, and the rooms are just these long, like they do karaoke in these private rooms, and they have like these couch things that just fill all the wall space. And so his coworkers are just sitting there getting tugged like right next to him.
Oh my Lord!
They're just boy, girl, tug. Like, that's why you didn't want her to come.
Oh my God!
I mean, they could have saved $50.
Sounds like Bed Springs might have been up for it. I don't know.
I know. Yeah, the KTVs are weird places. So they have them in China. And
how often did you go to visit these?
I hate karaoke, man. I've always hated karaoke. So a cleaner quickie. There's this island called Jebudo, Jebu Island off the west coast of Korea. They've got all these little tiny islands, and most of them they've got bridges you can drive out to. Some you got to take the ferries, and it's just, I love the islands, man. People have run away from them, so they're all like small, kind of crumbling areas, but just beautiful places. And Jebu is one of my two favorites with Muito. And Jebu, to get out there, they have this weird road that they built, but it's only visible during low tide. The west coast is this long thing of mud flats. So technically during low tide, the island's not even an island. You could walk out there, and people go out in this gray mud, and they're out there like digging up clams and little tiny octopus called nakji, and just they're going to town looking for some free food. And so it's about like maybe a mile long bridge you can drive out there. And in the old days, they had this toll gate, and it was manned by the Korean military. And so they had restaurants, these really good seafood restaurants on the land side. And so you have people out there like waiting for the tide to go away. And there'd be like a quarter mile or more lined up cars just waiting to go hit this island for the weekend. And everybody would be in these restaurants. They're sitting there eating. The dads are getting drunk. The kids are smoking. It's just nuts. And finally, you'd see the Korean military had this Jeep with a light bar on it, and they drive out to the lowest part of this little land bridge, and the two soldiers would get out of the car, and they'd step out there, and they'd watch to see like the last time the wave would even lap up over the concrete. And then they'd get in their Jeep, and they'd turn around and come back in, and they'd raise up the toll gate so you could get over the island. And it was like watching the cannonball run. Just like hundreds of families just making this mad dash for the cars, trying to be the first to get over to the island. And so it was wild because, half of them are drunk. Of course, this is back like 15, 20 years ago. They've cleaned it up a little. But there was like this really crappy amusement park out there, and just like these different weird like Viking rides and a disco tonga, this big flat wheel thing with hard seats that it would just bounce and spin and try and throw you, no belts or anything. You're just on there loose and drunk.
Nice.
Or you're on there loose and drunk.
Well, I was loose and drunk, but there are no belts. The only padding was what you had on you. And, of course, if there was a foreigner on there, the guy operating it really tried to screw with you.
Yeah.
And it was a magical place, man. They had all this fresh seafood. They had sewu sogum, which is a live shrimp that they have this bowl with a big bed of rock salt in it. They heat it up, and then they throw the shrimp on top of it and put a glass lid on it. So you just see the shrimp just flopping around, just dying. And I guess it makes it taste better. I don't know.
Wow. That's fresh. That's fresh.
That is fresh.
And they have like all you could eat shellfish, like clams and stuff. And it's a great place to just drink and eat and just hang out for the weekend. I had some friends that we'd go out there quite a bit. And when I was doing my master's, I just sometimes like I needed to get out of my apartment to study. And so I just like, all right, screw it, man. I'm going to go to random city, man. Show up on the Northeast coast where they did the Olympics, or out to Jebu Island. And I'd get away, and I'd eat and drink well during the night, and I'd study during the day. This one time I get out there, and there was a big group of Russians, which is weird because I usually didn't see other foreigners out there. They're like, oh, look, it's the other foreigner on the island. So we start talking and hanging out, and they all had a bunch of scooters, but they were on the mainland. I was on the island. Who was on the mainland? One of us was on the mainland. But sometimes if I came out when the tide was up, I'd just grab a hotel outside the island and just go back and forth. But no, this time I think I was off the island because I needed internet. There used to be no internet on the island. And so I'm at some love motel just off the bridge, and they're like, come hang out with us. So they all had scooters. So I'm like riding back onto the island with these drunk Ruskies. And we just, walked around and shot stuff and played games and drank and ate. And finally, it's like probably 3 or 4 in the morning. And I think 2 of them were arguing or something. And I was like, I study tomorrow. Spasiba, thank you. And so like, I got to go. And like, you can't go. And I'm like, oh shit, this is where these Russian a-holes are going to rob me and mug me and like drag my ass out to the water and drown me. And well, it was a good 20 something years that I had. Like, no, you can't go. It's high tide. I'm like, oh shit. So I had to walk back through this like near freezing water that went well above my knees. And luckily, like, they have some lamp posts along it, so you could kind of gauge that you were semi on the road, but you still had like the waves trying to drag at you. And yeah, it was a very uncomfortable walk, like that late at night. I think the clouds were covering the stars. Everything's shut down, so there's no lighting. The street lamps had long been off. So I'm just walking in near pitch black darkness on this road and almost like balls deep water. Spasiba.
Basiba.
But yeah, that's Jebu Island.
Awesome.
Nice.
Man, I feel like you probably got thousands of stories, man.
Oh yeah, dude, for sure.
Just the ones I can remember.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great.
Hey Barry.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a goat sucker?
What?
Goat sucker, chupacabra.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever seen one of those?
I haven't seen one personally, but I've heard about them.
Yeah, me too. If anybody's got a goat sucking story, if you got a goat sucker story, we want to hear it. If you got a Bigfoot story, we want to hear it. If you got a Loch Ness Monster story, or a Lake Champlain story, or Ogo Pogo story, or an Oingo Boingo story. Wait, that was an 80s band. Anyway, you got a weird cryptid story, we want to hear it.
I didn't even know what a cryptid was, man.
Yeah, dude, cryptids. They're like the animals that haven't been necessarily proven by science. They're the ones on the edge. They're not necessarily known animals, but they're known animals. We don't have the bodies or anything like that. So they're kind of like half myth, half story, based in reality, but still in that weird mystery area that we don't know about yet. Cryptids are fun.
They have a show called Surprise, and it's this weird thing where they'd act out like it was a low budget thing, and they take like 3 or 4 stories each week and have people act them out for these different segments. And some celebrities had to figure out, like, I think one was true or one was false, and they had to figure it out. And I actually did an episode of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I've got on tape. I got on Korean TV for a little while there, man. I was a judge on some really insane game show called Pyramid of Dreams.
Wow.
Dude, see if you can find those online, man.
I can't. I've looked for them. I've looked for them in English and Korea, but luckily I've got Surprise on tape. I was an episode in a documentary about they were making like China plates, this company. I was in that for a little bit. And then I judged 2 parts of this game show called Pyramid of Dreams, except I only have this episode on tape. I got to get it transferred. But it was this wacky thing where they took a bunch of people. I assume maybe they were like just out of college or something that age. And they had this big pyramid set up, and they lived in there. And it was a reality game show, and each season was sponsored by a different Korean company, and the prize was a job at that firm.
Wow.
So I don't know which episode this is. I did one for Korean Air, and I did one for an advertising arm of LG, and they were both equally screwed up, man. The LG one, they brought us out to some. It was a ski resort during the off season. And it was like the final episode. They were down to the final 2 people, and they had this little car that they were trying to sell the foreigners. and they'd set up this table of like foreign, like a bunch of German sausages and a lot of bottles of wine and cheeses all under their hot set lights. And so we're just sitting there eating the food, chugging the wine. This guy, very enthusiastic, he jumps up on the hood of one of the cars to show how sturdy it is. He got in trouble for that.
How did this? Go ahead.
So he pulls me over, and he's like, look, even for a guy this big, like this, because it was like a little, like a Geo, like a Metro-ish kind of thing. It's like, even a guy this big can fit in there. It's Matisse, I think, a local brand. Anyway, so he opens the door and he shoves me in there and closes the door in the little clown car. And he's like, look. And of course, I'm like, well, what can I do in here? Yeah, we're in the lobby of a ski resort. So I just start the little bastard up. No! Hell, I was drunk. What was I supposed to do?
How did you ask TV, man?
I came across a thing, just they were looking for foreign people to do stuff on TV. So I hooked up with this agent that hired for KBS, which is one of their 3 big networks. And so I just started doing stuff for them. Every once in a while I'd get a call, and if I wasn't busy, I'd just go hook it up. So I did several episodes. The other one, the Korean Air, was horrible. They had the job was to be a stewardess, because you'll understand, man, we don't do flight attendants. Those girls are definitely stewardesses, man. There's no political correctness in this shit. And they brought us out to this training facility that Korean Air has out by the old Gimpo Airport. Used to be the national airport in Seoul before they opened up Incheon in 2001. And so they've got this training facility. They got the swimming pool in there. They've got like a mock-up of the cabin, and they bring myself out with this other like foreign woman, a guy, and some Korean comedian that the 3 of us had never heard of. And they've built this like little stage up in the center of the swimming pool with a table on it. And they had us sit there, and we're facing the edge of this massive pool with a diving board. And they bring out these 2 groups of women, all in not bathing suits, like kind of, I'd say 1950s-ish. I don't know, definitely not modern bathing suits by any means. And they'd been doing some games and stuff in the pool. And so there they had this thing where they had an English contest that the 3 of us were supposed to judge while the Korean comedian made comments.
Right.
And it had all been set up. So we had like this list of words. And so when each young lady came out to the end of the diving board, they knew that like they had 1 minute or 2 minutes to talk. And so we would look at them and say, all right, ma'am, your word is service. And then she just like on the spot had to make up some nonsensical English commentary about the word service or courtesy or just whatever the hell it was. It was really nonsensical. And so in the end, like some of them got dumped in the pool, and the other foreign guy during some of the off time, we're talking, again, this is back in like 2004. And, so we don't have smartphones or anything like that. He had this big, like some sort of a tablet. Man, what did they have back in the day? Like an organizer thing that happened to have a camera on it.
Yeah.
And so he's like, dude, let me show you some stuff, man. I'm married, but, and that's, you hear this like phrase a lot with foreigners in Asia. I'm married, but, and so he starts like throwing out all these like upskirt pictures he's taken with his little organizer thing. Oh my Lord. And it's like, dude, no, like why? I don't know. In my entire life, I don't know what it is about me, but I'm the kind of guy that people just come up to and meet, and they begin with like, hi, my name is Franklin, and here's the worst thing I've ever done. Right. And like, man, I am people's emotional toilet. And
take a dump in him.
I know. He just showing me all these nasty pictures. I'm like, hey, he's not showing the girl this. So we go through the day, and he's like trying to like get pictures of the future stewardesses. Well, only one of them was going to win. So we judge them, and we go through all this stuff. And the final contest was they got it narrowed down to these 2 women, and they sat us all in this giant mock-up of it's a life-size mock-up of first class. I'm like, oh, I finally get to ride first class. So the women came in and they had to take turns doing the pre-flight safety briefing and all that stuff. And then outside the cabin, they had these big long tables laid out with a bunch of equipment, and they had to show us what each piece was and explain it. And so the 3 of us, no comedian this time, just the Ferners, we've got our notebooks that they gave us, and we're like grading them on everything. And so like, you collaborate, decide which one of these 2 women is definitely the best. And it was hands down. Like we knew girl A completely kicked girl B's ass. There was no doubts on any of the 3 of us, not even close. So like we do all of our writing, we talk to whoever was supervising us, and we hand in our material, and they're like, all right, now like, you stick around, in a few minutes we're going to do like the closing ceremony, and the vice president of Korean Air is going to come in, and he's going to award the job to the winner of the contest. And this is something they've been involved with. I don't know how many episodes. I mean, it's probably been on for like a month or 2. They've devoted, a big chunk of their lives to this. They've got all these hopes and dreams, and we've picked the absolutely best candidate for the job. So this guy comes in with the 2 girls, and we're sitting there watching, and we suddenly realize it's not going right. Girl B won the contest, and we're like, no, girl A, like, you guys are racist because you can't tell them 2 apart. And so like afterwards we ask him, like, dude, what happened here? And the woman, our handler, she's like, oh, well, the vice president, he reviewed what you said, but he also thought that girl B was prettier.
Oh my God.
Dun, 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 dun.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's how I did not pick a stewardess for Korean Air.
So
wow.
Okay, so back to the pyramid thing. Tell me a little bit more about that. They're living in a pyramid or whatever, like.
Yeah, it was some sort of like structure that they would erect outside of like wherever they were doing this. So they had this giant. And I don't know what it was made out of, plexiglass stage material, whatever. And so, yeah, it was just something like, because this was Korean Air, so it was outside the Korean Air training facility.
Oh, okay, same thing.
Some parking lot or something. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Wow.
And they just had like their cots or rooms or whatever set up in that, and they just hung out.
Wow.
Crazy.
That's crazy, dude.
That is crazy.
And technically, it's illegal to work off of your visa, so these were never jobs. I, wink, wink, volunteered to do them, and they just handed us an envelope of cash at the end.
Right, as a thank you for help. Yeah. Cool.
Right.
Awesome.
Well, hey, thanks, man. Thanks for coming on again.
Yeah, Sam. So much fun, buddy.
Oh, I'm loving this stuff.
Say, Barry.
Yeah.
What's the weirdest job you've ever had?
That's a good question. It would either have to be the time that I worked at a cattle feedlot or the time that I worked for a Greek painter.
Were you his model?
Not quite.
Well, it's funny because one of my weirdest jobs was being a model in art school, but it was portraits, not full body nude. The reason I'm asking is because those jobs may be kind of normal, but we know people are out there that have weirder jobs than that. Maybe you're a mortician. Maybe you're a scientist trying to bring back the dinosaurs or the woolly mammoth.
That'd be cool.
That would be really cool. If you guys out there have weird jobs, unusual jobs, crime scene photographer, maybe you worked at an adult educational film set, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink. Just something that's unusual, out of the ordinary, and, a little bit weird. Hey, those are cool stories too. We'd love to hear those. So give us a call or an email or whatever. You know how to get a hold of us. Be part of the community of Weirdsville.
Sam, wow, thank you for sharing your life as a juggalo, which is something I have been so interested in. And I've known a few juggalos on the down low, like I don't think they ever knew that I knew,
Right.
So I never brought it up in subject because it's always one of those things like I want to be respectful, but I'm so curious. I'm afraid that I'll come off as disrespectful. So I don't even broach the subject.
Yeah, dude. Sam is, man. Okay. I'll admit, Juggalos are just, they're a whole other breed. And, typically they are they're a wild bunch. They're interesting, and they're Sam's my only friend that's a Juggalo. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And those stories, and I've heard more of his Juggalo lifestyle, but those right there are just prime Sam. Those are prime Juggalo. Him just standing on a stage, just, whacked out of his mind in a long coat, duster jacket that he got from Marlboro Miles that he didn't even smoke the cigarettes, unintentionally exposing himself to thousands and thousands of people. That is Sam.
Oh, it's wonderful.
All written all over it.
That's
man.
wonderful.
That's just him. Nutshell.
He's a free spirit, man. He's a free spirit. Let's just say that. Yeah. And we got more stuff coming up from Sam, which will just further solidify sort of these ideas that I have in my mind about him. But he just has a way of just sort of just going with the flow, and he just enjoys the experience of life, and that is. You can't help but like that and really just love and respect a guy that just is all about taking it in. I love that aspect of it. And then, furthermore, the dating stories were just so great. And the fact that he might have been prostituted is absolutely one of the funniest stories I think I've heard.
Once again, man, only Sam can accidentally stumble into sex work without knowing it.
It's great.
But apparently, got a thumbs up, and did a good job apparently. So
man's got to do what a man's got to do. Oh, that's great.
Sam's got to do what a Sam's got to do.
That's right. Oh. Well, and that is the thing. Like when you live in a foreign country and you're trying to sort of figure out the dating scene, there's so many things that are just culturally odd from usually from the way that you grew up, and you're just trying to figure that out. So you may not think that something is on the weird, but how would you know until you know?
Yeah. Man, well, Sam worked it out, and he figured it all out, and he found his love of his life and his wife there, and those are the same one person as well. And Sam always has, he's always coming up smelling like roses, dude.
That's wonderful.
He's a hardworking guy. He is, he knows how to just, like you said, like go with the flow. But it's that's his life is just full of these crazy adventures that we don't normally have, and they're weird, compared to like our normal average everyday lives, man.
Yeah,
Sam's full of weird, and his entire family, they've got it. So it's great to have friends like that who have just weird, unusual experiences of the, normal kind, quote unquote, but as well as is to have, our friends and guests who have the experiences of the unusual, the unnormal, the paranormal and supernatural kind. So
absolutely,
it's just, everything, I guess it's like Sam, pretty much everything goes here on the What's Your Weird Story podcast. If it's weird, we want to hear it. And there's stuff that, maybe it doesn't go on air. There's definitely stuff that Sam told us that couldn't go on air.
Yeah,
But hey, it's always fun to hear people's stories. So if you got some weird stories, let us know, and we would love to hear them. We'd love to talk to you. Love to have you on the show here. So that's going to do it for this week. next week we have Bub Holla.
Nice.
Another friend that our good buddy Emotron hooked us up with.
Yeah.
So we got Bub Holler coming, or he found us through Emotron, one way or the other. Tron is our gatekeeper. He's gotten us many new friends. Bub Holler's coming, and he's got some great stories about being a kid and growing up in a mansion that wasn't his.
Yeah.
And
very cool.
And
very cool.
And maybe haunted. Maybe so weird stuff, but cool stuff.
That's right.
So you'll have to tune in and check that out. But in the meantime, be safe.
Be weird.
As always, if you have a weird story, we want to hear it.
If you have a lot of them, we want to hear them all.
We can't do this podcast without your invaluable contributions.
Whether it's sharing your stories,
listening,
rating,
and spreading the word about the podcast. Thanks for listening. Until next time, be safe.
Be weird.
The story is presented on the What's